All right, let's dive into one of the biggest days in any pilot's life, the private pilot checkride. I'm going to walk you through the entire day, from the second you walk in the door to the moment you get that temporary certificate in your hand. My goal here is so you know exactly what to expect and how to knock it out of the park. And you know what? If you're feeling a little bit nervous about it, you are in good company. I mean, this is the final exam. It's everything you've been working for, all the studying, all the flight time, it all comes down to this. So yeah, the pressure is definitely real.
But what if you could change that narrative? What if you could walk in feeling prepared, confident, and maybe even a little excited? Look, the goal isn't to get rid of the nerves completely. That's probably not going to happen. The key is to manage them with rock-solid preparation. This isn't just some scary test. It's your chance to show what you can do as a safe, competent pilot.
So, let's treat this as your personal guidebook to acing that check ride. We're going to start by just mapping out the whole day, breaking down your final exam so there are absolutely no surprises when you show up.
You know, when you really boil it down, the entire check ride is just two main parts. That's it. First, you've got the ground portion, which we call the oral exam, and second, you go flying. Thinking about it like that, just two big steps, suddenly makes the whole day feel a lot less intimidating, right?
So, who's the person giving you the test? They're an FAA Designated Pilot Examiner, or DPE for short. And here's the most important thing to remember about them. They are not there to trick you. Their entire job is just to make sure you're a safe and competent pilot before the FAA lets you fly passengers around.
Okay, this right here, this is your secret weapon. It's the Practical Test Standards, or PTS. Seriously, think of this as the cheat sheet for the entire test. It literally tells you every single thing you could possibly be tested on, all the possible oral questions, every flight maneuver, and the exact standards you have to meet to pass. If it's not in the PTS, you won't see it on the check ride. No surprises. Now let's get into the groundwork. This part covers all your documentation and the oral exam, basically everything that happens before you even get close to the airplane. The very first thing you're going to do is actually an easy win, getting your paperwork in order. Think of this as your first chance to make a fantastic impression. When you walk in organized and prepared, it just sets a professional, confident tone for the whole day and gives you a nice little boost right from the start.
So here's your checklist. Have all this stuff laid out, tabbed, and ready to go. The really big thing here, and I mean this, is to double-check that your name and address match perfectly on every single document. Little details like that show the examiner you're serious and on top of your game.
Okay, so once the paperwork is done, it's time for the oral exam. And we have to bust a huge myth right now. You are not expected to have every single regulation memorized. This is an open book test.
And this is really the core of it. The DPE is way more interested in seeing that you know where to find the answers. Can you grab the FAR aim and find the right regulation? Can you look at a chart and figure something out? Being a resourceful pilot is so much more important than being a walking encyclopedia.
You can expect the oral exam to last about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. You'll walk through the cross-country flight you planned, and the DPE is going to throw some scenario-based questions at you to see how you make decisions. Seriously, don't be afraid to say, I'm not 100% sure, but I know exactly where to look that up. That's the sign of a smart, safe pilot.
All right, once the oral exam is done, it's time for the fun part. The second you get in that airplane, you are the pilot in command. The DP is now your passenger. This is your flight.
So the flight usually starts with you flying the first leg of that cross-country you planned. Then the examiner will have you divert to a practice area. That's where you'll demonstrate all the core maneuvers right out of the PTS, things like steep turns, stalls, and slow flight. Remember, your job isn't to be absolutely perfect. It's to be safe, stay in control, and make corrections. Then it's back to the airport for takeoffs and landings, and you got to be ready for a simulated emergency at any time.
Now, here's a little insider tip for the flight portion. If your DPE is just sitting there quietly, that is generally a fantastic sign. It means you're flying to standards and they don't have anything to correct. If they do start talking or giving instructions, don't panic. It doesn't mean you're failing. They're probably just moving you on to the next task on the list. Just listen, do what they ask, and keep flying the airplane.
Okay, let's wrap up with a few pro tips. Think of these as your secret weapons that can give you a serious edge on check ride day.
This is a big one. Ask your flight school to set you up with a mock check ride, and try to do it with an instructor you don't normally fly with. This is the absolute best way to simulate the pressure of being evaluated by a stranger and work out any of those last-minute jitters.
You've probably heard this one before, and it's a classic for a reason.
Just sit in a comfortable chair, close your eyes, and visualize the entire flight. I mean everything from startup to shutdown. Talk through your checklists out loud and actually move your hands like you're in the cockpit. It's an incredibly powerful way to build muscle memory, and hey, it's free.
If your check ride isn't at your home airport, you have to go fly there a few times before the big day. Get to know the taxiways, learn the local procedures, spot the landmarks. Being familiar with the airport just breeds confidence and seriously reduces your mental workload when it really counts.
And always, always remember this mantra. Slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. When you rush, you make mistakes. It doesn't matter if you're answering a tough oral question or performing a maneuver. Just take a deep breath, slow down, and think. A calm, deliberate approach is always going to be your safest and most successful bet.
Finally, let's talk about what happens at the very end of the day. You've landed, you've taxied back, you've shut down the engine. Now the DPE gives you the result.
So if you pass, the DPE will probably wait until you're back inside to debrief you and start filling out the final paperwork. If you do happen to make a mistake that busts a standard, the DPE will tell you right away, usually while you're still in the air. They'll explain what happened, and you'll just plan to get a little more training on that one specific item. It is not the end of the world, not by a long shot. It's just a learning opportunity.
But listen, with the right preparation, you have every single reason to walk in there feeling confident. You've put in the hours, you've done the work, you've earned this, and you are ready.
So as you're getting ready, keep your eyes on the prize. Just imagine that feeling of accomplishment and start daydreaming about that very first flight you'll take with your brand new pilot certificate. So the only question left is, where are you going to go?